Okay, so this morning I'd like to take a look at the anatomy of synchronicity, one of my favorite subjects, to discover for ourselves what it is that takes place when we experience this great and expansive energy. I am sure that all of you have experienced at one time or another this desirous state of beingness, where the slightest thought seems to produce instantaneous and joyous results, where time and life seem to move so rapidly, so speedily, so freely, where that which you are thinking of, with just the merest casual, relaxed thought, simply shows up out of the blue, as it were, with no effort on your part. Or where perhaps you have been suddenly intuitively guided to take a certain course of action and discover yourself involved in an unexpected event of great import or meaning to you. Sometimes called or covered over with the word coincidence. Well, in this framework, life seems to have a great sense of intelligence working, which spontaneously reveals to us its secret, magnificent order of purposes. Divine order, invisible intelligence, a mighty tapestry of oneness and meaning. Everything is permeated with energy and higher meaning. We feel in these times the presence, the invisible guiding and responding force close to us. Consciousness is alert and highlighted, and we feel in tune with the extraordinary. Something greater moving in and through everything. We sense our oneness with all and connectedness with every living thing, and that sense is mighty and all-pervasive. So in these times, we are sensing the real world, the real way it's divinely intended to be. What now seems to be a random event or happening actually serves to remind us of another way of being, beyond the veil of restriction, where we are in such rhythm and harmony with all that we have actually moved into another time frame, another dimension, which is unencumbered and free, beyond the law of averages, and where we really all belong. For this way is truer to our divine natures, more closely reveals our potentials for joy, enthusiasm, and effortless demonstrations of good. We are in a high state of agreement with our light, love, divine energy bodies at this time, consciousness resting on faith in life, each other, and in what we are. So, what are some of the requirements of this state, to experience the state of being? Well, first, I would definitely say clarity. A clear idea of who we are and what we desire, accompanied by the power of absolute faith and acceptance that the universe responds to us. You know, in spiritual mind treatment, we have a magnificent tool to cultivate this state, where we build up our identification with the spiritual truth of our being, and where we use the tools of identification, realization, faith, acceptance, and releasing in trust of the mighty power of being, the great I am, God within, to bring about our desired good perfectly. And we practice this powerful tool again and again until it has become such an integrated part of our being that we begin to experience the all good and its accompanying manifestations in a split second, without process. For now we are doing and have become that process. And so good happens in a flash, a great condensation of time, simultaneously with the thought of the thing desired. So this sounds a lot like synchronicity, doesn't it? You know, the dictionary has some marvelous definitions. It defines synchronous as events happening simultaneously, existing or arriving at the same time, recurring or operating at exactly the same time periods. And this one I particularly love, concerned with a complex of events, a finely interwoven tapestry existing in a limited time period and ignoring antecedents or preceding history of causes. So synchronicity has its own rules of nowness, where clearly what really has happened is several thought fields have come together harmoniously in a timeless moment. And what could produce synchronicity more frequently and more successfully in our lives than that mind of oneness and harmony with all? You know, when I first read Carl Jung, Man and His Symbols, which is such a great book, I thought, oh, I want more of that synchronicity he talks about. It seemed to me then to be so miraculous and magical that one could live this way. And yet my deeper self, that light within, kept going off, flashing its signals to me, saying, from the depths of that holy place within, from the supreme I am, but Linda, this is the real way of being. And now I have come 1,000 light years in consciousness by means of this magnificent teaching. And what was at that time a ray of hope, a glimmer of divine reality, has come to the point of normalizing. It's a normal experience for me, stabilizing, and coming forth to be much of my now reality. And when I am not experiencing elements of synchronicity, I feel as though something's off. And I sit myself down and I say, look, you got some work to do. These God vibration states, living so close to the divine and the sublime, subtle workings of the universe, the great order of things, now seems the natural barometer to me. I mean, that's my temperature gauge. And I can't conceive of life without the presence of the miraculous, the wonderful, and the consciousness of divinity, and a sense of the great oneness. So, let's go back to some of the ingredients of this great phenomena called synchronicity. We have clarity. We have a sense of oneness, harmony, unconditioned thinking, and openness. In other words, a sense of spontaneity and newness. Not thinking in terms of the past, laboriously trying to recreate some good, yet being open to things happening in a new way. So in order to be here, some part of us has had to become aware of access and natural right to infinite and abounding resources and creativity. So we need not repeat. And there is a sense of adventure. I mean, how often have you marveled, and how often have you found yourself saying or reporting, boy, that was wild. Oh, that was an outrageous event. Gee, it must have been coincidence. And yes, it was. But not in the traditional sense, implying unconsciousness and randomness, but in the sense of incidents coming together, happening simultaneously and very scientifically. For we are always experiencing in the relative world that which is commensurate with our consciousness, whether we are aware of it or not. And you could say we're like a magnetic field, and we draw whatever it is that we're thinking upon, whether we've learned to listen to our thoughts or to consciously use our thoughts. Whatever we're thinking on, we're constantly attracting to us, and it shows up and we say, gee, that was a surprise. Well, really, it's not so surprising. So, and back to the openness, to the new, being willing for our good to show up in marvelous, spontaneous ways. Letting go, letting God, Spirit, express itself like itself. And I know you've all heard this many times, Spirit is not into repeating. It doesn't get to sense its vitality when it's into repeating. So we let God free, or the divinity within us, the imagination, the inspiration, free to amaze us and beguile us with unexpected appearances of good and connectedness in its marvelous, ever-new style, with glimmers and lightning flashes and sweeps of unlimitedness itself showing up right in the midst of our everyday experiences. So in this vibration, we have broken through the ordinary boundaries of time, space, and limitation. We are experiencing the God vibration and how it works. I have so many stories. Well, I'll just tell one. When I even don't quite understand myself, but I was going across town. As you know, I've been like building searching for the perfect right building. And so I go out my doorway, and I'm hailing a taxi to go across town for the first appointment. And this very friendly driver shows up, and he drives me across town, and I have maybe about 2 hours worth of appointments, and going all up and down, and ended up on another street from where he dropped me off. And so we get finished, and then I go outside, and I said, we all said, well, let's get taxis. So I hail a taxi. And who is it but the very same guy, the very one? When you're in the law of averages, these things do not happen. They're not in that realm. But when you're in the infinite connectedness, we know that this is part of its normal, wonderful way of being. So for whatever divine reasons, we were to have that interlude of saying hi, blessing each other however we were doing that, and then releasing. He turned to me and he said, do you know how phenomenal this is? Out of all the people, in all the cab drivers in New York City, that you have the same one? I said, yes, isn't it wonderful? And that was it. But it smacked of the divine. You know what I'm saying? When something like this happens, you say, life is great. Oh, there's something going on, there's something wonderful there. So when we're in this very free-flowing and trusting and flowing feeling with the universe, we get these kinds of events popping up all the time. And I'll just tell you one other one. My refrigerator was like, out to lunch for 3 weeks. 3 weeks I'm using ice buckets, etc., And my landlord is a rather reticent type and speaks very loudly, and, and he's wonderful, and I speak over him. So one day I was telling my class that I finally decided to come to terms and told him he should care about me. So he said, I care, and he said, I'll send you a refrigerator. So lo and behold, I was thinking, I'm just going to buy my own refrigerator. I'm not going to hang out waiting for this guy. I'm going to get what I want. Release, right? Non-dependency, release. I wasn't going to wait around. And I thought, maybe they have like a sort of mid-sized refrigerator, that would really fit in my kitchen nicely, not too big, not too little. That would be just perfect. So in about an hour, and I'm prepared to go out. If it didn't arrive that day or something didn't happen, I was just going to go out and buy it. And the doorbell rings, and it's the super. And he's at the door. He says, Misty Coff, I have a refrigerator across the street for you. And he said, and it's nice shape. He says, not too big, not too little, He says, I bring it over. You have 7, help me bring it up, So I was prepared to go out and pay $600 or whatever the going rate was for this refrigerator. And here it was, right following my thought, because I was very clear, very released, and I would have gone out and purchased it. I wasn't like saying someone has to get this to me, or a particular person, place, or thing. And sure enough, it just made that space, and in it walked, and now it's doing its perfect thing in my kitchen. So this is how synchronicity operates, and the more sensitive you get to your thinking, you will realize that actually most of the time we're living like this. We're just not aware that things are happening according to our thinking and our expectancy. So, as I was saying, all these stories, and I know that you've all experienced, reveal another very important aspect, and that is release. You're standing there waiting for the bus, it doesn't come, you say, okay, I'm going to take a taxi. And sure enough, the bus comes right along. So release creates room for the thing that wanted to come in, that was really right there for you all the time, to come in. So in those moments, I had to let go. I had given over. I'd let go my grasp of control. And that is some act of faith. So we must have faith in order to release that we're okay. So, and then that good may come forth. So we find ourselves in the vibration where actually time, sense of time disappears, and all of life seems to be going on simultaneously. And we are participating in these goings on according to our chosen pocket of activity and interest. Time, space, past or precedent are irrelevant. And they are truly so often to me now. Perhaps I'm going somewhere, and I say to a friend, I'll be right back out. And apparently I really mean that. For more often than not, my friends will say to me, oh, that was quick, you took no time at all. And it's the truth. Time has become irrelevant to me. For I was operating in the physical simultaneously with a thought of whatever my intention was at the time. So I was at a higher rate. And it seemed to be that I was moving fast. And I know for sure one of the great causes that has brought me into this good state has been conscious cultivation of doing whatever it is I need to do right now. Getting rid of habits of procrastination, resistance, and delay. For these attitudes manifest as time lags, as things seeming laborious. So our work does pay off immeasurably. And we can apply the divine essence and law of synchronicity wherever we are. Having passed through the archway of abundance and experienced removals of all negatives which hold up our vibratory patterns, synchronicity is one of the great rewards. Einstein, I know you all know, said energy and matter are equal, and every great scientist, every great metaphysician is always discovering the same thing, the same secret. Our thought is energy, and the matter of our thought is form. So our thought is the form. And the freer we get, that which we think manifests. So another important factor to setting up this stage of your vibratory pattern, tuning your level to the great sound of Om, is to develop the mind of good expectancy, knowing if a miracle is ready to happen, it's sure enough going to happen to you. You know, there's Bach's law, if anything good can happen today, it's happening to me. So we say that with miracles also. Develop the mind that entertains possibilities of the good and the wonderful, the adventurous, the spontaneous mind of love, and wide-reaching faith in all, good, and the allness of supply. Become radically reliant upon your source. Be brave and do not follow the trappings of convention and repetition. Be willing to manifest something no one ever in the great collective has as yet manifested. Move past humdrum and weighty restrictions, purposeless restrictions and concerns that we place upon ourselves, and get that feeling of being loved, divinely loved, important, significant to the working of this universe in your own special way, and therefore upheld, transported, nurtured, and supplied in, through, and by means of all that divine stuff, which is always operating for you, always, just at the level of your demand. So demand more wonderfulness of yourself and of God, of the law of being. Release stuckness wherever you find it, and become a great explorer of unknown horizons of good in your life. And do it now, for there is only the eternal now. Become unlimited, which you are, and one with the true radiant nature of being now. Expect miracles and good always and ever out of every experience. Expand your vision. Have you noticed when you are in great states of harmony, how your 5 physical senses seem to converge, interrelate, and automatically increase their capacities? How you seem to be able to see longer distances than before? That sign way down the road that might have been obscured to you in a more dense level of consciousness is now oh so visible. And you can actually feel that person hundreds of feet away from you on the other side of the street as they're looking at you, and you turn, you just felt something. Or the smell of that rose is so much more fragrant. The sounds of that symphony impact your entire being so much more richly. And sometimes you can hear what a painting is saying to you. The 6th sense, the conglomerate sense, the conglomerate invisible, intuitive, direct line to God awareness is now dominant. So as you become more and more one with your divine source within, all the physical senses begin to merge into a higher one sense awareness, a fine attunement to divine promptings and intuitions. And so we see another factor. Intuition, or so-called hunches, take the place of ordinary sense. For our calculators are moving mighty fast. It appears to be just like, where did that come from? But actually we're forming very fast deductions. They're just moving much faster than the rate of ordinary thinking. So a feeling, as it were, suddenly comes up and compels us to change direction, whatever. It is because we are living close to God and in the God vibration and atmosphere of thought. So let us go within now. To that great teeming center of vibrating light atoms, tapping into this magnificent atomic energy field of ongoing creation within. And let us join with the radiant and sublime intelligence and energy. And let us say within, I give thanks to the high consciousness within me that all that is unlike me within thee is now removed. All patterns and belief of delay, difficulties, and fascination with long drawn-out procedures, all are removed. I place no barriers between me and the divine pattern of experience. I open myself to the great flow and success of divine and miraculous activity right where I am. I move with life at its natural level of exuberant expression. I recognize the sweet presence of God, perfection, showing up everywhere. I celebrate this glorious, rich life of good that I live, and I feel so intrinsically one with all vibrations of being. And right now, I bring my high God awareness of light, love, ease, and power to a special situation where I now desire to be realized, unbound, and fulfilled. And I see the God presence removing now all obstruction from my path and richly greeting me with the gift of great fulfillment, greater than I have ever known. I am instantaneously swept up in this pattern of fulfillment now. And I move forward now, electrified, energized, knowing God is indeed my own. I sing God's song of synchronicity. And right now I meet with my good, complete and whole. And so it is. We read this all together. It's called Divine Fulfillment. And let's read this knowing that our word is law. And right now, as we speak these words, we are creating exactly, perfectly, what we right now require for fulfillment. You ready? I am that I am. And right now, I know that by linking up to the one perfect one, for sure my good is already done. Absolute, spontaneous, complete and whole. My good now springs forth to bless me, to increase me, its riches to unfold. Before me now is the great and the all. I am one. I am free. No doubts nor fears come nigh me. I know who I am, and my absolute clarity and unity establishes me in greatest and most profound demonstrations of God's perfect love and supply right now. God's love fills my soul, and so it is. So let's do a closing treatment. Right now I declare there is only and ever one power, one presence, one magnificent, omnipotent life force expressing its bounty in, through, and by means of us and everyone. I know that right here is the full consciousness of God, victorious being, and that for each individual here, whatever challenge right now requires more divine energy, wherever that area may be, known or unknown, that light power of God is now moving in and through that particular area, condition of health, finances, well-being, relationships, moving its mighty power of light in and through, dissolving all known and unknown obstructions, that the greatness may now come forth in, through, and by means of each individual. I do declare that for each individual this week, the divine attribute of divine timing, synchronistic, spontaneous, magnificent results are moving and flowing in the vibration of each. Each is experiencing a more joyous, spontaneous week of opening doorways of good than ever before. Each one has come to a new light level of expanded experience. I give thanks to that mighty power, greater than myself, greater than each one in this room, that now sweeps us up in its good and lays its treasures at the feet of our experience, synchronistically, simultaneously. I speak my word. I know my word is one with the law and complete, and that all is perfectly done now. And so it is. Anything else, as Ernst Holmes says, would be inconceivable and impossible for such a consciousness like this. And we know it.